She's conquering grand slams, shattering records, and making the entire world stop and watch. Yet her YouTube subscriber count barely crosses 1 million. Alexandra Eala is a global phenomenon. So why is the digital world sleeping on her? The answer will shock you. Welcome back to the channel. If you've been following the world of professional tennis over the past few years, then the name Alexandra Eala is one that absolutely needs no introduction. But for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, buckle up, because what we are about to unpack today is one of the most fascinating, inspiring, and quite frankly baffling stories in the entire landscape of modern sports. We're talking about a young woman who, at just 20 years of age, has already stood on the biggest stages tennis has to offer. A player who has competed at the French Open, Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and the Australian Open. A player who came through the prestigious Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, one of the most elite and selective tennis development programs on the planet. A player who is ranked inside the top 50 in the world, and who is widely considered one of the most technically gifted and mentally composed young athletes in her generation. And yet, and here is where it gets truly mind-bending. When you pull up her YouTube channel, the subscriber count hovers just around the 1 million mark. 1 million. For context, gaming streamers with no competitive achievement to speak of routinely pull 10, 15, 20 million subscribers. Social media influencers who do little more than post daily vlogs are sitting on numbers 3, 4, 5 times that figure. So what is happening here? Why is the digital footprint of one of the most exciting athletes in the world so disproportionately small compared to her actual global impact and sporting stature? That is exactly what we're going to dig into today. Deeply, thoroughly, and honestly, we're going to talk about who Alexandra Eala really is, where she came from, what she has achieved, why she resonates so powerfully with audiences across the globe. And then we're going to try to make sense of this massive disconnect between her real-world phenomenon status and her online subscriber numbers. Let's start at the very beginning. Alexandra Eala was born on May 23, 2005, in Manila, the Philippines. She grew up in a country where basketball is essentially a religion, where boxing legends like Manny Pacquiao are worshipped as national heroes, and where tennis has historically occupied a relatively modest position in the national sporting consciousness. And yet, from a very young age, it became clear that this young girl from Manila was not going to follow a conventional path. She picked up a tennis racket, and something extraordinary happened. The sport did not just come naturally to her. It seemed to speak to her in a language that was uniquely her own. Her footwork, her timing, her ability to read the game, her composure under pressure. These were not qualities that needed to be manufactured. They were already there, waiting to be refined and unleashed upon the world. Word of her talent spread quickly through the tennis development community, and it was not long before she came to the attention of the Rafael Nadal Academy, the institution founded by one of the greatest champions the sport has ever produced. Being accepted into that program is not a casual thing. The Nadal Academy has worked with some of the best junior prospects in the world, and its standards are extraordinarily high. The fact that Eala was not only accepted but went on to thrive there says everything you need to know about the ceiling of her potential. During her time training in Mallorca, she began competing on the ITF junior circuit, and the results were nothing short of spectacular. She became the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam title when she claimed the 2022 Australian Open Girls Doubles Championship. She followed that up with more ITF junior titles and consistently pushed her game forward with a maturity and tactical awareness that belied her age. She was not just winning matches. She was winning them in style, demonstrating a brand of tennis that was aggressive, intelligent, and deeply entertaining. But the thing about Alexandra Eala that truly captures people's imagination is not just the trophies and the rankings. It is the way she carries herself. In a sport that can be brutally demanding, emotionally, physically, psychologically, she moves through the chaos with a kind of quiet, unshakable belief in herself. She does not crack under the weight of expectation. She does not look overwhelmed when she steps onto the biggest courts in the world. She looks like she belongs. And that quality, that sense of total inner authority, is genuinely rare in athletes of any age, let alone someone in her late teens. Her journey to the WTA Tour has been methodical and deliberate. She worked her way up to the challenger circuit, earning her stripes, sharpening her game against seasoned professionals, absorbing losses and converting them into lessons. Every setback became a stepping stone. Every difficult match against a higher-ranked opponent became a data point, feeding into a continuous process of improvement. And then came the Grand Slam appearances that announced to the global tennis community that this was not a future story. This was a present tense story. Competing at the highest level of women's professional tennis, she gave notice that she was not there to participate. She was there to compete, to challenge, and eventually to win. The Filipino sports media went into overdrive. Social media in the Philippines erupted every time she stepped onto a Grand Slam court. Her matches were broadcast on national television. She became a symbol, not just of individual athletic achievement, but of national pride, of possibility, of what a young Filipino girl could become as she dreamed boldly and worked with absolute dedication. Across Southeast Asia, her profile exploded. Fans from Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, countries with growing tennis cultures and enormous appetites for inspiring sporting narratives, embrace her as one of their own. She was a regional icon, a Pan-Asian sporting figure whose story transcended borders and spoke to a shared sense of aspiration. And internationally, the tennis world took notice too. Commentators praised her game. Analysts highlighted her as one of the players most likely to break into the very top tier of women's tennis in the coming years. Publications that cover the sport in depth were talking about her trajectory in glowing terms. So we come back to the central question of today's deep dive. With all of this, the Grand Slam titles, the WTA ranking, the national hero status, the regional icon phenomenon, the international recognition, why does her YouTube channel sit at just around 1 million subscribers? The answer, when you really analyze it carefully, is a combination of several distinct and interconnected factors. The first factor is geography and the digital divide. The Philippines and many parts of Southeast Asia, while having enormous populations with genuine internet connectivity, still show different content consumption patterns compared to, say, North America or Western Europe. A significant portion of Eala's most passionate fan base engages with her content through platforms like Facebook, which remains dominant in the Philippines and much of the region, rather than YouTube. Filipino internet culture has historically been Facebook first, and this means that fan engagement, clip sharing, and community building around Alexandra Eala often happens in spaces that do not translate directly into YouTube subscriber counts. The second factor is content volume and frequency. To build a large YouTube following, you generally need a consistent, high-volume content strategy. You need to be posting regularly, engaging with your audience through multiple formats, and giving the algorithm enough material to work with. Athletes who have cracked large YouTube audiences, think Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, Novak Djokovic, typically have large content teams, dedicated digital staff, and years of platform-native content strategy behind them. Alexandra Eala is 20 years old. She is in the middle of trying to become one of the best tennis players on the planet. Her primary focus, quite rightly, is on her tennis. The content side of her brand is still, relatively speaking, in its early development phase. The third factor is the tennis sport itself and its YouTube ecosystem. Tennis, compared to team sports with massive club followings, has a somewhat smaller organic YouTube audience. The sport does not have the same kind of club tribalism that drives football or basketball fans to consume enormous amounts of digital content every day. The tennis YouTube ecosystem is real and engaged, but is not as vast as the ecosystems around the world's most popular team sports. This means that even the biggest tennis stars have YouTube followings that might seem modest compared to athletes from other disciplines. The fourth factor, and this one is particularly worth reflecting on, is the underrepresentation of Asian athletes in mainstream global sports media. The reality is that the global sports media machine, particularly the English-language digital sports media ecosystem, has historically focused its most intensive coverage and amplification on athletes from North America, Western Europe, and a handful of other markets. Asian athletes, even those who are objectively world-class, often receive a fraction of the organic discovery and algorithmic promotion that their counterparts from other regions enjoy. This is a structural issue, not a reflection of Eala's talent or her story's resonance. But it is a real factor, and it has real effects on subscriber counts and digital reach. The fifth factor is simply time. Alexandra Eala is 20 years old. She is at the very beginning of what could be an extraordinarily long and decorated professional career. The athletes with tens of millions of YouTube subscribers have typically been building their digital presence for a decade or more. They have had the benefit of time for their stories to accumulate, for their digital communities to grow organically, for their content to compound. Eala's story is still being written, and her digital follow will almost certainly grow dramatically as her career progresses and as her global profile continues to expand. But here's the thing, and this is perhaps the most important point in this entire analysis. 1 million subscribers is actually a significant milestone. It is not nothing. It is a genuine, substantial, engaged community. And for a 20-year-old tennis player from the Philippines who is still in the early chapters of her professional journey, it represents a foundation that is both impressive and full of extraordinary potential. The more meaningful metric, arguably, is not the raw subscriber count, but the depth and intensity of the engagement around her. The fans who follow Alexandra Eala are not casual, passive observers. They are deeply invested in her story, deeply proud of what she represents, and deeply committed to her journey. In the Philippines, she commands a kind of emotional devotion that only the very greatest national heroes attract. That quality of engagement, that depth of human connection, is ultimately worth more than a big number on a subscriber counter. What the coming years will almost certainly reveal is a dramatic upward trajectory in her digital following as her on-court achievements continue to stack up, as her content strategy matures, as global sports media gives her the spotlight she deserves, and as the next generation of Filipino and Southeast Asian sports fans, many of them children today, grow up watching her and subscribing to her channel. She is not just a tennis player. She is a movement. She is proof that talent transcends geography. She is proof that a girl from Manila can walk onto the courts of Roland Garros and Wimbledon and belong there completely. And she is proof that the most important subscriber count, the one that truly matters, is not measured in numbers on a platform dashboard, but in the number of hearts and minds that have been changed, inspired, and set ablaze by watching her play. The world is still catching up to Alexandra Eala. But make no mistake, it is catching up fast. And when it fully arrives, when the entire global sports world is watching her with the same intensity that her home country already does, that subscriber count is going to tell a very different story. That's a wrap on today's deep dive. Alexandra Eala is not underrated. The world just hasn't caught up yet. If this story moved you, smash that like button, drop your thoughts below, and subscribe so you never miss a breakdown like this. See you in the next one.